Let's bring in Phil Thompson, the federal member for Herbert, which takes in Townsville. Thanks for talking to us again, Phil. That was a horrific instance we showed there. Tell us how commonplace, I know there's been a lot of strife over many, many months, this crime wave is in Townsville and how the community there is reacting.
Oh, mate, that's a gut-wrenching story, but it's so common here in Townsville, and it shouldn't be. And crime and the assaults, the break-and-enters, stealing of cars, the carjackings with people using weapons and knives has become a regular thing. And it's not, it shouldn't be. And people shouldn't think of it as the norm. And we've seen failure after failure from the state Labor government and their failure to really show any action here. People feel like prisoners in their own home, and it's absolutely terrible to hear these stories, but they're also common.
Well, the trouble is a lot of car theft and there's a lot of raiding of shops and the like, but if you're a prisoner in your home, you're not safe anyway because there's these home invasions when people are home anyway. Tell us about the nature of this. This is largely youth crime, isn't it? And it's not an Indigenous youth problem. This is right across the community, just to make that clear, right?
Oh, 100%. This is youth criminals. There is all walks of life committing these crimes. This is not just specific to young Indigenous males. It is quite broader than that. It is a lot of young youth. I've worked at the Cleveland Youth Detention Centre. I've seen the people that come in and what's happening. And you're right to say, when people are in their homes, they don't feel safe there. And as you've just heard from that story, sometimes you're not. And it is very scary, it's very traumatic, and action needs to be taken because tonight, last night, the night before, people have been having their cars stolen and they'll be repeat offenders. The revolving door will continue to spin because the inaction of what we're seeing from the Premier and her Labor members here in Townsville.
We so often think about the big cities as where the crime is worse and you've got to be careful about walking the streets late at night, but it sounds like people can't safely walk the streets late at night in a place like Townsville or Alice Springs at the moment.
Correct. And Townsville's the largest city, the furthest away from a capital city. And we've seen break-ins go up by more than 50% in the last year. Car thefts have gone up more than 30% in the last year. Sexual assault has gone up more than 12% in the last year. And these are just the ones that are reported. And the police do a fantastic job. They really do. They're out there doing their best to keep people safe. They're getting let down by the laws. And even the magistrates and the judges, they're acting on laws and legislation passed by the Queensland Parliament. And for more than a decade, people have been screaming about actions needed, and it falls on deaf ears. Well, let me jump in there. Free State Labor MPs.
Let me jump in, Phil, because there has been action today. There's a major backflip from the Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk today. She's bringing back breach of bail as a criminal offence, and she's also throwing $40 million or more at special police flying squads to go into some of these areas where there is trouble. Is that enough, and is it at least a step in the right direction?
Well, in 2015, the Premier abolished and watered down all the youth justice laws. So since 2015 to now has taken the Premier this long to realise that that was a mistake. And since I've been elected, I've been on your show many a times calling for action and what breach of bail needs to be an offence. You need to remove youth justice, in the Youth Justice Act, you need to remove detention as a last resort, and you need to stop the holiday-like conditions at the detention centres. We've got 3 state Labor MPs here, Les Walker, Aaron Harper and Scott Stewart. They should resign because for the last 4 years plus, they've been saying you don't need breach of bail, we're not doing it. Now it's a backflip. These poor victims and the victims of crime are out of pocket tens of thousands of dollars. They're getting traumatic events like the lady we just saw on TV.
Yeah, and lives lost.
They're towing the party line.
Shocking situation.
Lost. It's ridiculous, mate. You have to keep politicians accountable, and we must keep them accountable, including me. But we've got failure after failure, and now, close to midnight on an election about, going to be next year, and we've got everyone's starting to campaign and people getting...
We've got to get the change.
It's ridiculous.
Whenever it happens. Thanks for joining us, Phil. Appreciate it. Phil Thompson there, who's the member for Herbert, takes in Townsville there. Don't forget Paul Murray tomorrow night live from Toowoomba. This issue, as you can see, is really serious, particularly in Queensland. They'll focus on that tomorrow night.